Why is the demographics getting younger and younger? Because more and more people are being exposed to this, and they're realizing that this isn't grandfather's game. This is a fun game.
Sure.
And I think there's something else about it, the culture of this game and the players that are playing this game.
Yeah.
We can probably dive down into that a little bit, but there's something special about this game.
Well, welcome back to the future of pickleball. This is the show we bring the big dogs in. This is the place where we talk to the people that are moving the sport, that are driving it, that are creating where pickleball is going. Today, I want to welcome Mike Nealy, the CEO of USA Pickleball. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Paul. Big dog's coming. I hope it's a good dog.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well. Okay, just to clarify.
No. That's the highest compliment. There's no higher compliment than that one.
All right.
You know, I'll tell you, one of the things that I thought would be interesting when we were going to get together and do this today would be to kind of talk about what a national sports organization does and how instrumental is it to everything that goes on in pickleball. Would you just kind of brief us a little bit?
Yeah, that's an important question, because I think I get a lot of questions sometimes. People don't understand what a governing body. How do you do that? How does that? What does that mean with the tours? And are you
Exactly.
you guys own the tours? There's a lot of confusion. So that very valid question. Governing body, very important to be part of that. The supporting governing body of the whole sport itself. In the sport, in the masses, growing the sport, supporting the sport, the rules, regulations, equipment standards, that is very critical things to keep things standardized and fair across the whole sport. So that's a big part of what we do.
Cool. It's really interesting. I've been in the game for a long time, and I've came from a long sports background, so I paid very close attention when I was coming in as to what is the governing body, because every sport has a governing body. It doesn't function as a real legitimate sport without some kind of covering things like the rules. Now, when an organization like USA Pickleball, which was preceded by USAPA, United States Pickleball Association, what was the objective, or how do the rules become what they are? How does that get created?
Yeah, and you'd probably have to go back a long time from when the game was actually invented, right?
Sure.
We're talking 1965, of course, and where did that? At what point? When did somebody write down the rules? And that goes back and precedes the current organization.
Right.
But back in the early 2000s, a little bit more formality to that when the USAP, as we sit right now, was created.
Yep.
And more formalization. So there's not a magic pill of this is actually how it happens, and probably happened a little bit differently depending on the governing bodies of different sports. But as it progressed, and us as an organization, just like the sport itself has blown up in recent years, us as an organization have been trying to get up to speed and growing ourselves, where just a handful of years ago, there was only a handful of employees, and we are at 35 employees now and counting, just to be able to do the things that are going to be needed to be done at a governing body level to stay up to speed and making sure that we're delivering what we should be delivering as a governing body.
And so now, as every sport, the uniformity of rules is critical, whether it's baseball or football or basketball or anything.
Right.
Do you think that there's a little bit of perhaps people do not realize how critical rules are to a game, just like standards of equipment, standards of facilities?
Yeah.
All of those things are really what the USA Pickleball manages, aren't they?
Right, absolutely. And there's the rules that most people know. How do you score? How do you, the size of the court and some standard things. But there are a lot of really specific rules. I just left a board meeting, and one of the processes every year is we have a rules committee that takes incoming requests for, hey, I'd like to see this rule changed. Request. The board's, one of the board's responsibility, or USAP's responsibility, is to assess these and every year be updating the rule book. And that process is going on actually as we speak right now. Very important, because the sport is evolving, and sports do evolve. And as you learn more and requests and things are, people are thinking about, okay, what if we did it this way? How about this way? That assessment is an ongoing process, and and an annual process in our sense. It's an important process.
Sure. It is, when I came into the game over a decade ago, I was just amazed. There was a man in Minnesota who was the USA ambassador. And Mike was a highly successful business executive who had retired, but he got the passion. But what he did with working with park boards and city councils to get people to find places to play, that's a big part of what your organization does, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, as we know, this sport has grown tremendously, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One of those reasons are the Mikes from Minnesota.
Yeah.
This meant something to them, the passion about this sport, and they got involved, and they started talking to whoever they could talk to, because they knew this sport. They meant a lot to them. They wanted to grow. They needed places to play. They wanted places to play. They got their friends growing. So there's over 2,000 Mikes from Minnesota now out there.
And that's an ongoing ambassador program, is still a part of the organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one that I will say, I'm 5 months into my position right now. I was amazed in learning, that type of an asset, if you will, that we had as an organization. Right. We need to further and more utilize those ambassadors that are out there. And the amazing part, these are volunteers, folks. I mean, they believe in this game. They're out there, and they're really also the ears on the street, and
sure,
and the communication tools for places. And so that absolutely that ongoing and growing, and a big piece of what we have.
One of the things that I have seen with all of the different people, I came from a lifetime in the sporting goods business, from the commercial side of different sports and industries. And one of the things that amazed me when I came in was, because we began as a 50 and older sport, we had all of these people that came from lifetime career experience levels, that when they sunk into pickleball, they were able to do a lot more than some children's sport that sooner or later they grow up and they get older and play the game for life. Here we were building a sport with people with experience. In some cases they put their own money into helping
Sure.
to make things go. Is that something we'll continue to see with all of the stuff that we're doing in pickleball?
Well, I think so. I mean, to your point, that benefit, there was a little bit of trickle-down knowledge of when you had, let's say, experienced people involved.
Yeah.
There is an advantage from an experience level, maturity level of how to grow and apostolize of what was going on here. Yet we all know this sport was initially was the sport that grandparents were playing and so because it was maybe a little less arduous than
severe.
Right.
Yeah.
But we all know. I mean, the growth now, and I just saw a chart of the 65 plus population is not the largest population that's playing the sport right now. It's in the 30s, and that growth, there's children that are playing this, and we're moving towards the growth is there at all age levels.
Yeah.
But it was, I think it was a benefit that it started from a seasoned perspective and trickled down, let's say.
Sure. I want to touch on something that has been kind of, I think, overlooked, is in the earliest stages that I became aware of, so in the early 2012s, let's say, and on, was the media of the world about pickleball came from USAP. Mm-hmm. That's where all the media was. And I'll give you an interesting historical note. In 2012, when I came into the game, I came from a business background in the sporting goods industry. I wanted to look up. I went on site, and we were proud as the dickens that we had 150,000 players worldwide in 2012. And here we're somewhere north of 10 million today. It's pretty amazing.
Sure. 2012 was the year that I believe our first paid employee at USAP was hired.
Yeah.
So, and is still with us today.
Oh, isn't that?
Justin Maloof, our Chief Operating Officer. So, and then that tells you a little bit how far we've come. And again, back into the late teens, we still had single-digit numbers of employees. And as I mentioned,
Sure.
we're at 35 right now. So
Yeah.
that's another part of the growth pattern.
And then an absolutely instrumental part of the game has become the development of referee programs. You guys took the lead on that, identified the fact that we really ought to do that and ought to have it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the caliber of training that's gone on since it first began to today is on the order of remarkable.
Sure, and that was an investment that we made. And this is, and a lot of sports, as a referee, you pay to get certified so that you can go on and make some money and do something that you love to do. We understood that was an important necessity to have strong referees, and we invest in that money to get people trained, and trained mostly to be able to ref other people's events. But we felt and know that that's an important piece of what's necessary. And again, I'm newer into this organization, but very impressed with the quality of the referees and the levels and the process that's been improved over the years. We have a great referee program.
Well, I know, I don't personally know how challenging it is. I did some refereeing when things were very casual and loose, but I hear people, friends of mine, telling me who are trying to get the referee certification. Mm-hmm. They're booking it pretty good to get ready for their test. It's a challenge.
As we mentioned, the rules, they're changing, and there's probably more. There's more than there used to be. There's a lot to know. And I think anybody that's never reffed a sport, I happen to have reffed a different sport at one time. There's a lot of nuances as a referee that you need to know all those rules so you can be, that official.
And then so now as the sport has moved along, certainly in just the time frame that I've been involved, quality of equipment has become really a big deal. And I mean, it always was a factor, but that's become a major component of what your organization is doing now, is managing the equipment standards, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in the certification process and working, and we have very strong individuals that work with the manufacturers, and from a communication standpoint, testing and certification standpoint, very, very important. And the entrance, just like the game itself and the number of players, the number of manufacturers that are out there that are bringing products forward is phenomenal. In the last year, hundreds and hundreds of new manufacturers and paddles and equipment that's coming in. I mean, it's a growing industry. There's money to be made, and in a system, it's happening. So,
Mike, the thing that we see in the sport of pickleball is there's a lot of different organizations. There's different leagues, there's pro leagues, there's different variations on things. How does a group like USA Pickleball interface with the different organizations within pickleball?
Certainly, I think it's important that we interface with all of them. If you're following pickleball, there are a lot of entities, and it's been moving around in the news, and as far as who's aligned and tracking, all very important. And I think you have to give credit for so the growth in pickleball. I think if you talk to people, a big driver in the growth of pickleball was when COVID came, and something to be outside and be able to experience. That was a piece of it. But I think when that formality of the professional, the tours, and then leagues came along, and the people that were involved in the leagues, there were some high-profile names that were being thrown out there. I think that got some attention for people saying, okay, well, if this person is involved in that, maybe I do need to figure this out. And I truly believe this sport, if you check out this sport and you pick up that paddle and you play for that first time, you're going to get hooked in there, and that's what happened to me. That's what happened. The story happens again and again and again.
We're all here doing exactly that.
So, and as we talked about a little bit, but the age group, why is the demographics getting younger and younger? Because more and more people are being exposed to this, and they're realizing that this isn't grandfather's game. This is a fun game.
Sure.
And I think there's something else about it. The culture of this game and the players that are playing this game. We can probably dive down into that a little bit, but there's something special about this game.
I was recently at a brand new first-time event called the PBX event, which is where the pro athletes from all kinds of different sports, and I mean some high-profile world champion baseball players and football players and basketball players, they're embracing pickleball, and they're putting their own league together. And it was such a hoot to see men and women that I've seen that are high celebrities. They're discovering our game and going, this is cool, and what a fun way to kind of reignite a little bit of competitive juices if that's their interest.
Absolutely.
So the next stage is going to be fun. The next big stage that I'm really excited about, I found out about the Global Pickleball Foundation or Federation, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I'd like to, could you just explain a little bit what a global federation will be as opposed to the U.S. Pickleball Association?
I mean, that's a step in, again, supporting and growing this sport. And now we're talking about outside of the United States walls here, but it's important as we are, and I think people ask the question too, what about the Olympics? How do we get the Olympics? I think, well, you can't have an Olympics without other countries participating in the sport. So this is a step towards that, but it's important to for countries or for us, I think, to take the leadership on that federation and that the global federation, which we called it, as an avenue for countries to gather around that and support for this game, following the rules that we have set forward so that it's a standard international set of rules that's going to be important. And so far, that is the path that I believe that we're going to.
Now, on that order, there have been conversations in the sport of pickleball over the years of other international, global, world entities suggesting that they were going to bring it together, but nothing that I know of has really been identifiable that way. How will you guys separate yourself?
Yeah, there's been a couple of them. Even ourselves initiated a federation some time back, and it's complicated. And just like from the professional standpoint in the tours, there's different changes in jockeying, and people have different opinions of how this should go forward. Not everybody agreed, and so there even is now competing federations out there. I think our approach to it, and us being USA Pickleball, and our approach, I think is the correct approach methodically of getting this into the internationally the right way and to grow it systematically. We did it along with the help of getting equipment into hands of places that need to promulgate the sport itself. It's a small financial requirement, but in some places it's more difficult than others. But
certainly,
we got a great start, and I think I would say I feel very comfortable that how we approach it and what we're doing, our global federation is going to be the one that's going to be successil in the long run.
And so now I have heard the term talked about in terms of Olympic compliant. Is there some legal characteristic that the bylaws or something have to be official or approved by the International Olympic Committee?
Absolutely, and I am learning that myself. I came from sports, but not in an Olympic avenue of sports. But the IOC, there are specific steps and things that you need to do from an approval standpoint and process standpoint to qualify ultimately to apply to be an Olympic sport. There are very specific rules that you need requirements and both some timing things, some financial requirements, processes that you do have to follow, and that's what we are getting in line with and working towards to do it and doing it the right way, systematically. Not speeding and trying to rush to it, but doing it the right way.
Well, I think that's great. I have many of my friends have traveled internationally and played pickleball along the way, and it's fun to hear them talk about the hot spots they're finding in Europe, in Asia, and it'll be so cool when we just move this thing to a worldwide game as strong as it's been in America. That'd be very fun.
And we see it as our game. I was talking to somebody that was down in Australia, I think this was maybe a year ago or so, and they were at an event down there, and the person that they were with and worked with at this event pulled out a USAP rule book.
Oh, very nice.
That's a nice to hear that that's what we want.
Very nice.
Not because I don't think we're trying to say that we are the best and it has to be our way, but yes, that sport was started here. We got a head start on things. We want standardization if possible for the sake of the sport itself. And and to change those rules and change the things, if other countries come up with ideas that are better and ultimately, that could end up changing some things that's fine. We want what's best for this sport.
On that order, and that's a perfect segue. And that's one of the big things that your organization does is it's about ratings. what goes on in the organization, and what does the organization provide in terms of rating systems, both regionally and nationally and globally?
Well, sure, ratings are a real important part of qualifying participants, and especially when you're talking about competition. I think uniquely in pickleball is that there are a number of ratings that are out there,
right?
And you can have discussions on which one's better or whatnot. We are contractually using a particular rating right now. Again, the words of Wild West out there. Right now, I would love to see, and maybe what I'm answering your question is that as a sport, ideally, you want the governing body to have a rating system that is supported across the whole sport. We're just not there yet. I mean, this sport, while it's not new, a lot of things have been changing yet, and there's some competing ratings that are out there. What I want to do as an organization is try to unite people ultimately under a ideal best rating system.
Sure.
I think the challenge to that right now is that years back, we as an organization weren't out front enough to develop the rating.
Right.
And absent that, other ratings were created.
Right. And I've been through all of those machinations and
Sure.
and different programs. But what is it that you guys are working on for your organization to guide the secret sauce for your rating system? Is that algorithmic? Is that data input? How are you going about creating something that you guys have a lot of pride in that is going to be your answer?
Sure. That will go along with partnering with a rating system, being a part of that system, part of improving that system, and,
Sure.
and making it the accepted. As an organization, we can say this is the rating, guys. That the United States Pickleball Association. This is our rating. We can't mandate that everybody uses it, and we can't just pick a rating and if it's not a good rating and it's not going to be accepted, it's not going to happen either. So maybe answering your question is that I will find and partner with someone that will partner with us, and together with hopefully the whole pickleball world will come together and help making this a rating system the accepted and best rating system that there is.
And that will be great when that gets done. Because I'll tell you, the hurdle, whether it was when one of the competing organizations was formed and started, people, when they don't see the number that they want, they're sure there's something wrong with the rating system.
Of course.
And I have this conversation with a lot of people, and I try and say, hey, you've got to realize this is data collection.
Yeah.
And if there's a little data, there's a little bit of information. If there's a lot of data, we're going to get closer. Is that something that, as you're moving forward as USAP,
Yeah.
will that also be a uniform system with what might go on internationally?
That would absolutely also be ideal. We talked a little bit earlier about the global platform, and I think ideally there would be a rating and ranking system throughout all of accepted and used across the world. Absolutely, and that's one thing that I think as a leadership from our position that I want to be a part of and pushing it out, a consistent rating across the world.
I think that it leads to so much energy and excitement. In the traveling that I do, which is quite extensive across the country, I love the fact that anywhere I go, I'm a pretty good pickleball player, but sometimes people don't take the more mature gentleman quite so seriously, being in a position to say, well, which rating system would you like to know what my rating is? And I can show it to you, and let's get out on the court and establish ourselves.
Right.
When we can do that globally,
Yeah.
I think that will be magic land.
And we talked earlier about our rule book is one that's being referenced
Right.
in other countries. A rating system that we are using should be a universal rating. Hopefully a global rating system was what would be ideal.
Cool.
I hope to be able to unite the fronts to get to that point. There'll be some time, but I think we can get there.
Good. I'm about out of my questions. Is there anything in particular that in messaging that you would like to get out that I haven't brought up, or any thoughts or ideas that you have before we close?
Well, I always like to take the opportunity to thank people for, we are a membership organization as well. And so I always want to thank the people that are our members and that are supportive of us. We talked about the tours and the partnerships that are about. I appreciate there's so many people that are out there that are a fan of this sport and are looking to make this sport grow and grow in ways that are conducive to having the best possible sport that we can do. That's I think what's important. We know this is a special game. There's a lot of opportunity coming forward in this game. As an organization and a governing body, I want to be a uniting, non-exclusive organization that grows this game for the best for everybody, and understanding there's millions and millions of people out there, and we want to be able to be supportive and make this game as wonderful it is better than we can ever do it.
I told you we were going to have a good one today, folks. I want to thank Mike Nealy from USA Pickleball, their CEO. Thanks for being on the Future of Pickleball on Selkirk TV. It was a great interview, buddy. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Paul.